Well, hello, Canadian Campaholic here, coming to you on a absolutely freezing early Saturday morning in November. As you can see around me, it may technically be fall, but winter has definitely arrived here in southwestern Ontario. We actually had a little bit of snow on our last trip of the season last weekend. That was the weekend bridging October into November. Temperatures at night dipped well below freezing. Right now, the actual temperature is about 0 degrees or 32 Fahrenheit. However, I would say with this breeze, it's probably closer to 28 Fahrenheit or a little bit below zero. The purpose of today is just kind of update you on where things are at and also talk a little bit about the fact that, yeah, it's that time of year. We've got to winterize or finish the winterization process for our travel trailer and get it all ready for the long winter hiatus. This season has gone by incredibly quickly. It's hard for me to believe that it's time to wrap up already. We had a great weekend last weekend with the trailer. It did get a little bit cold. Like I said, we had some snow, but my wife and my children, you know, they love camping, they love the trailer, but the idea of hunkering down when it's this cold and starting to snow is not really their cup of tea. So we're going to be finishing up the winterization. The plumbing I've already done, and I'm not going to cover that in this video. If you look on my channel, there's a very, very quick high-level overview of how to winterize your plumbing. I've already done that. The purpose of today's visit is to finalize some of the winterization process. So that's going to include removing mattresses and cushions, and we'll talk about why we do that. I'm going to be topping up the cloves and the peanut butter and the mint extract to get rid of mice. If you want more details on keeping mice out of your trailer, I've also got a link down in the description for that video as well. I'll be putting some dryer sheets in certain compartments, taking out anything that's delicate or could be damaged by staying in the trailer over the winter. And then also dealing with moisture. We'll talk about that today, covering up the wheels and so on. The difference this season is that my trailer is actually due for a little bit of service. The brakes and the bearings need to be serviced. I am going to be taking those to a professional service center at a dealership, but they're not able to do that work for another couple of weeks. So I'm going to do a fairly extensive winterization. However, I will have to be prepared in the next couple of weeks to come back over here, hook up the camper and take it over to be serviced. Once it comes back from that trip, then yes, I will absolutely finalize everything. The propane tank will be removed. The battery will be removed and put somewhere else on a smart charger to maintain it over the winter. So we're kind of doing it in stages. This isn't really meant to be an instructional video per se. It's more of a video log to kind of update you on where things are at. So it is frickin' freezing out here. So let's head inside and start some of this very depressing process. So we're inside the camper now. One of the key things that I'm going to be doing today is removing a lot of the bedding items. In fact, all of the bedding items. So these mattresses that are on my children's bunks, those are going to come home with me. Any sleeping bags or bedding is going to come home. Pillows I will remove as well. Underneath their mattresses, we bought these little playmat things just to add a little more padding. Those are going to come home as well. I'm going to remove the cushions from the dinette. The bedding off of our bed. We've got this queen-size mattress, and then there's a queen-size memory foam underneath it, and you can see some more pillows. So all of this stuff will go in the back of the truck and will be stored in our basement. The bedding will get washed and then packed away for the spring. The mattresses will go in the basement. And the thought process here is twofold. One, it could potentially get damp in here if you had a leak or something over the course of the winter. But more importantly than that, mice, if they do get into your trailer, they want to make a nest. So anything that is fabric filled or foam filled, they're going to have a field day with that. They're going to shred it and make one hell of a nest. I also am going to go through the storage compartments under the booth dinette to make sure that if there's any foam pads or any other upholstery type stuff that it's all taken out. Yes, this stuff is going to take space in your home, but it keeps it dry. It keeps it clean, and in the event you do get mice in here in the winter, it's going to reduce the chances of them actually making a nest and causing lots and lots of damage. This stuff is expensive, and it would cost a lot to replace. So all of that will come out. Also, I will be removing the television. It's actually hidden under the bunk there. We put the television down there for safety when we're traveling with it, because the TV usually just sits up on the counter here. The TV I'm going to take home. It's a, it's a flat screen TV. It's a piece of electronics. It's probably going to be fine in here, but again, just in case there's any moisture or anything like that, I'd rather not leave it in here, so the TV will come with me as well. Other bits and pieces like the kettle, the coffee maker, I will take those home eventually and get them all cleaned out so that they're ready for next year. It's also a good idea to go through all your cupboards and your drawers. If you've got lanterns and batteries and things, flashlights I should say, don't leave the batteries inside the lanterns and the flashlights, because they will, there's a risk rather that they could rupture and burst over the winter, and then it causes all kinds of corrosion. And when you open up the bottom of your lantern or the flashlight or whatever, the springs and connectors inside can be all basically rusted out and corroded. So anything to do with batteries, I would suggest you go through and actually remove the batteries. The only thing I would say don't remove the batteries from, of course, would be your smoke detector, but anything else I would definitely take it out. In terms of the mice element, again, I'm not going to go into super detail on that because I have a video about that on my channel, but in a few moments you'll see me starting that process, because it does involve opening up some compartments and it's a little bit fiddly. So before I start moving out all these larger items, I'm going to take care of the mice situation. So one of the first tasks that I'm going to do here is part of the winterization process, and again, those of you who are familiar with my channel would have seen my video on this, but preventing mice in the trailer. This is a task I would typically, even when I had the tent trailer or the pop-up camper, I would typically do this at wintertime only, because typically when mice are looking for somewhere safe and relatively warm, they're going to do it in the winter. That's a bit of a mistake, folks. We had these predator traps set up, baited, as you can see, with just regular old peanut butter. We had fresh whole cloves. You can get these at any bulk food store. They're very pungent, but they the thought process is that the mice don't like the smell. Also use cotton balls from your local dollar store, and peppermint extract. Peppermint oil is even better, but I couldn't get my hands on any, so peppermint extract, because the theory there is they don't like the smell of the peppermint. You can do Irish Spring soap. Also, a lot of people swear by dryer sheets, although I've heard mixed reviews on those. Some people will say that what happens is the mice actually take the dryer sheet and make a nest out of it, so hard to say. Some people have also commented that peppermint attracts mice where they are. All I will tell you guys is that when I put a fresh batch of these ingredients in the trailer last winter, we never had a single mouse. Somewhere during the spring and summer, the cloves dried out. They don't last forever. The peppermint extract evaporated, wasn't really making much of a smell. The dryer sheets, of course, had lost most of their scent. And I discovered to my horror that one of these traps had been set off and had slid to the back of a compartment underneath one of the bunks. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, inside that trap was a dead mouse that had died and had been decomposing for a considerable amount of time. Thankfully, it had dried out and the smell was minimal, but getting it out of there, cleaning it up, and getting rid of the smell was horrendous. So honestly, I'm going to keep this stuff topped up all year round. Even if we're traveling and camping, I don't care how hot it is. It seems to me that it's a little bit of a coincidence that when the peanut butter, the cloves, the mint, and everything is fresh, I don't get mice. After 5 months of winter and I neglected it, what happens? I get a freaking mouse in the trailer. Be careful with these traps, by the way, these predator spring traps. They are fairly aggressive when they go off, as I will demonstrate here in just a second, because I just went to take this one out of the storage compartment and put my finger in it, and it was pretty aggressive. Didn't break my finger or anything, but man, oh man, does it ever work well. So basically, as you saw in my other video, I keep these in the compartment around the water pump. There's more cloves in there. I keep them in the compartment around the hot water tank. See more cloves in there. It's not mouse shit, it's cloves. And then, of course, underneath the bunks around the power section, because this is where whenever I've caught mice, this is pretty much where I'm always catching them. I do think they're coming in through the power door there, the shore power cord door. A lot of folks have commented that they're skeptical that's where they got in, but again, I'm not taking any chances. We know very well that mice carry disease, and if they chew into wires and electrical, it can not only cause thousands of dollars of damage, but it could result in a catastrophic fire. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to scrape out the peanut butter, put fresh stuff in, and top up all of these key ingredients to get this trailer ready for the winter. So basically, folks, what I've done is I've gone into each compartment and I've put the mouse traps in there. You can see I've put the mouse traps along the wall. Typically, when mice scurry around inside your trailer, they tend to follow the edge of walls. So I've set those up there. Put in a generous helping of fresh cloves. And then I've basically gently soaked a few cotton balls. There's a third one underneath there. And just toss those in on top. I will add a couple of dryer sheets as well, just to be sure. And then it's important that you close up all of these compartments so the mice can't get out, or it will reduce the chances of them getting into the rest of the trailer, I guess I should say. Keep in mind, a mouse can get its head through an opening the size of a dime, so you can't 100% prevent them from getting in, but the idea here is to make this a hostile environment where hopefully they don't want to be here. So let's get this all fixed up, and then let's start taking out all this bedding and cushions and stuff. The next item on our agenda to deal with is moisture. What I am going to be using is a product I've used for years. This is called Damp Check. No, I am not sponsored by Damp Check. There is a similar product called Damp Rid, R-I-D, Damp R-I-D. Both of these are fantastic products. Basically, it is a crystalline material that absorbs moisture. This is a refill bag. You can buy these containers full of the crystals as well, but I had these a few years ago, so rather than buying all new pots, I bought a refill bag. So to get started, you want to buy the pots, and then in subsequent years, you want to buy the bags. And basically, as you can see from the picture here, you put the crystals in the top of this container. Let me see if I can do this one-handed. So you put them in this reservoir, and you can fill it right up to the brim, and there's little slots in it. And as it absorbs moisture, it will drip down into the bottom half of the container, and then you can safely dump that down your toilet. Now, this stuff is all poisonous, so do not drink it. Do not put it down your kitchen sink, but you can dump it down your toilet. I've seen a lot of folks on different forums lately, on Facebook and other groups, talking about the little $1.50 moisture absorbers you can get at dollar stores. Folks, those are okay for at home in your closet, but if you have a pop-up camper or a tent trailer or a travel trailer or a fifth wheel, you need this. This is basically one of those dollar store moisture absorbers on steroids. And in a travel trailer like this one, if all your seals are in good condition, you really shouldn't get much, if any, humidity in here at all over the winter months, especially if you live in an area like I do where it's below zero nearly all winter. Moisture is much less of an issue. But if you have a tent trailer or a hybrid, then yes, moisture and humidity inside the trailer with temperature changes over the winter can be a major concern, and it can cause mildew and mold and all kinds of issues. So Damp Check or Damp Rid is amazing. So basically what I do is I fill up these containers with the crystals. I have them in this larger container so that if they get knocked over, the liquid doesn't spill everywhere. And then I will place the entire container on the floor of the camper. And I'll be honest with you, in the travel trailer, nearly all winter, it stays bone dry in here, and the crystals barely absorb any water because there isn't a lot of moisture. When I used to use this exact same product in my pop-up camper or tent trailer, by the end of the winter, it had absorbed a ton of moisture, and you can top up the crystals over the course of the winter if you need to. But in terms of winterizing, mice and moisture, two biggest things you've got to be concerned about, and this stuff is absolutely fantastic. I think the pots, when you buy them brand new, are about between $6 and $8 Canadian, and again, they are full of crystals. And then the refill bag, I want to say, is anywhere from $10 to $13, but it is well worth it. So I'm going to top these up, put the lids back on, the little grids here, set them on the floor. Job done. Some other jobs that I'm actually not going to do today, and again, this is because the trailer is going to be getting serviced in about a week or two. Normally, I would put wheel covers over the outside of the wheels. These are fairly inexpensive covers that I bought on Amazon. They came from China. They're certainly not as fancy as some of the white covers that you can find, but these were, I want to say, 20 bucks for a pair of two. And basically they slip over, let's go outside. The cover slips over the top of the wheel. I think I featured this in a video before. The issue you have over the long winter months, of course, is that the sidewalls get exposed to a lot of ultraviolet light, especially in the winter, and it can rot the sides of the tires and start to crack the rubber, creating what is called weather checking, and that could be very disastrous because it could cause a blowout when you start camping in the new season. Again, I'm not going to bother with that today because this trailer will be towed in about a week or so for further maintenance, but that's an important part. Something else that you should do when you're winterizing is I would recommend removing your propane tank. Put that in your shed or your garage or somewhere away from any sources of ignition to keep it safe. I put it in our backyard under a tarp. You should also remove the battery. And not only remove the battery, but put it on a smart charger. Some people will say, oh, just charge it up and just sit it on a shelf and leave it, it'll be fine. But really, you know, these deep cycle batteries are pretty expensive. You know, looking anywhere from $200 to $300 to $400 Canadian a pop. So I bought a smart charger, which will charge the battery and then basically do a maintenance process over the course of the 5 months of winter and keep the battery in top health. Not sure if I'll remove it today because, again, I'm going to be towing the unit for service in a week. You definitely don't want to be towing the trailer without the battery in, because if you are hooked up to the truck, it's going to be trying to charge the battery, and if the battery's not in there and you've got current going to those two cords, I would imagine that could be a bad idea. So I'm probably going to leave the battery in place. And then the last little thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my shore power cord here, and I'm going to put steel wool behind it, and then I'm going to use Gorilla tape, Gorilla brand duct tape to seal that up. Steel wool is one of the few things mice will not chew through, and the Gorilla tape basically stops the little bastards from being able to get in this door, because this little door that's supposed to go up and down here, you can see it's super loose. Now again, what are the chances a mouse could actually get up the side of the trailer? Fairly slim, but do you really want to take a chance? So again, stuff this with steel wool, quadruple O or OOOO grade, very fine steel wool. Stuff it in there, close it up, and put a piece of duct tape over the top of it, and yeah, we'll be just about ready to rock and roll. So that will just about do it for this winterization process. As I said earlier, a very, very sad day. We've had quite the camping season. It started back in early April. We ended up, whoop, the wind's blowing, sorry about that. We ended up with about 14 trips over the season, all the way through April, May, June, July, August, September, October, and then we had our final trip right at the start of November. And now we are done. It will be 5 months of no camping. It's been an interesting season. It has not been without incident. We did have some maintenance issues with the trailer this season. The trailer is a couple of years old now. As you saw on my channel, we had an issue in May where the hot water heater stopped working. So we had to replace the control board and the igniter for that. We did have an issue with a leak in the front of the trailer. And let me show you something. What's interesting about the leak is I was always checking the seals, you know, up and down the trailer, checking the roof for the die core, all the seals around the seams, around the windows. And the leak actually was coming from here. So where the aluminum siding is attached to the trailer, somewhere up in there, the seal had failed, and it was allowing just a tiny little bit of water to drip down the inside of the front wall. And of course, you can't let that go. That will rot the inside of the trailer. It will eventually drip down to the floor and rot the floor out. But sealing that seam across there with the siding, that didn't really occur to me. It wasn't covered by the manufacturer when I got the trailer. So I guess a little top tip when you're checking your seals, look for stuff like that too. The other issue that we ran into here at the storage facility, it's a pretty busy place, and some idiot was maneuvering and backed into the trailer. He hit it so hard that he backed it up on the wheel chocks, and they of course exploded. He smashed my front marker light and caused a very minor dent here. We never did figure out exactly who did it. Well, the storage facility people did. And the gentleman or person replaced the wheel chocks and fixed the light for me. But so that was a little bit disconcerting, but could have been a heck of a lot worse. Oh, had to get in the truck. It was not only was it getting kind of cold out there, but there was people showing up at the storage facility. And I know selfie sticks and people talking to themselves is a fairly normal thing these days, but I don't feel comfortable standing out there rambling to myself. So anyway, we'll wrap things up. As I mentioned, the winter hiatus for us will last until April. I doubt we're going to be posting much to the channel over the course of the winter. I will come back here probably every 2 to 3 weeks to check on the trailer, check the interior condition, make sure mice haven't got in, make sure there's no leaks. But again, because we had that unfortunate accident where somebody backed into the trailer, I also will come to make sure that that has not happened. It's going to be a long winter hiatus, but you know, the holiday season is coming up, and that really makes November, December go by fairly quickly. January and February are absolutely painful because the weather here is miserable. We're not really outdoorsy people when it comes to the winter time, so it's pretty depressing. However, when it comes to reservations at Ontario parks, this was probably one of the busiest, most crazy seasons ever. So in order to secure the sites we want, we absolutely are going to have to start booking when that 5-month window opens up. They've also got a new reservation system this year. So to give you an example, I mean, April camping, we could be booking that this month. May camping, when the weather starts to get a little bit better, and we want our prime sites, we're going to start booking that in December. So I guess that does, you know, break up the monotony of the hiatus a little bit. But all good things must come to an end. And I'm sure that the winter will go by quickly. And before we know it, it'll be the 2020 camping season. So with that, I'll wrap this video up, and I wish you all the best for the winter, and we'll talk to you later.